aren't necessarily the primary carries, but do very well at the role they're expected to play.
He fills a role and a need on this team, that is for sure. So Azir will be the first ban, not going to first pick it. I would say Samsung is likely to take that Victor, if anything now, away from Easy Hoon. Italy also the ban against Tom. We've seen that previously when he comes onto the field. He's such a mechanical player. When we talk about the difference between Bengi and Tom, Bengi nowhere near the mechanical prowess of a player like Tom, who can really outplay you in a skirmish.
And you can tell that. They've also banned the Elisa. Already 2 respect jungle bans against Tom. That's super surprising to see. This guy can obviously play an excellent Gragas. Maybe Gragas will loom as a first pick, but not surprising to see the Elise ban. What's your take on this Ryze, though? We did see one Ryze pick yesterday. We saw a lot of Ryze bans. To me, the trade-off is a bit like Sejuani. Sejuani was super powerful towards the late game, but her numbers were high enough that it justified babying her through a kind of weak early jungling phase. Ryze certainly took over the game at 28 minutes, but now with all the damage nerfs, is the trade-off there? Because to me, the answer is no.
Yeah, I tend to think that Kalista and Ryze are over-banned in Korea these days. I don't think that they are the same threats that they used to be after a series of nerfs. Braum, on the other hand, still a very important pickup in a meta that can focus on a lot of poke, and especially in combination with that Kog'Maw, Braum is extraordinarily powerful. Rek'Sai will be the lock-in for Tom, alongside a first-pick Rumble for Marin. Now, in SKT's last set, that second game where Marin got 10 kills on that Rumble, he basically just became unstoppable as a split-pushing Rumble and destroyed Longshu IM.
Too often this season, Marin's Rumble in particular has gone away from the can he pick up the Leandri's Sorcerer's Shoes and be a team fighter to just being a split push god with the likes of a second item death cap at 22 minutes. If you get that extra AP, Rumble does scale very well with flat AP, both defensively and offensively, of course, with the scrap shield, and can be that split pushing threat that you never really expect in Champion Select. But when Marin makes it work, damn does he take over games.
Yes, he does indeed. So there is the Lucian lock, a champion that is seeing increased priority in Korea this week. It's very interesting. This week, in the last 2 days, we've seen a lot more consistent Lucian play. Now, Fury's a great Lucian player. They want to take over the laning phase. Hecarim also there, so they're balancing out some late game power with some early game punch. Lucian for the laning phase, Hecarim going to scale into relevance a bit later, but having the Braum-Lucian combo is pretty devastating for proccing that concussive blow.
I do expect the Vayne that was flashed by Easyhoon to loom as the potential AD carry pick. When you have Easyhoon in the team, who's going to play more of those controlled defensive mages. With Bang just stepping up on this champion, you already have Rumble that can create effective zones. I think the Vayne's a great choice, and Vayne Alice is a very strong laning duo, so potentially going to be the lock-in for SKT.
It is. So again, another Vayne pick for Bang.
Carry pants are on.
Yeah, moving away from that Corki. But if you have to start playing professionally with Bang on some more hyper carries, now's the time to do it, because there's really no risk when it comes to your placing in this tournament, your performance. This is the time for Bang to get very comfortable on stage with a champion like Vayne and get his teammates used to protecting him in a team fight. Yeah, because SKT knows how to play with solo lane threats, but this version of SKT, i.e. not with Piglet anymore, they were a very Vayne-focused, Caitlyn-focused team with Piglet, with Faker, but now everyone else learning how to play around a Vayne carry player.
And just on an even simpler level, Monte Cristo, playing around Bang Unchained, because there will be games where Faker will fall behind, where Bang has to be the primary threat, and look at this in terms of threats. We expected the Fizz to be locked in, but he's been practicing it in solo queue. Look, it still could be Fizz top and Hecarim jungle, but let's be real, it's probably going to be the Fizz jungle from Bliss.
Yes, absolutely. One would think that is the case. A blind Zed. Now, we saw the blind Zed last night work, but I think that was more Jin Air's fault than it was Anarchy's success on blind picking the Zed. But with Easyhoon's champion pool, I think SKT wanted the Twisted Fate here, and that makes it very interesting. What is he going to pick? Probably the Lulu, so it's going to be some sort of odd Jugger Vayne composition with another damage threat coming out of Rumble.
I mean, Oriana was a potential, but there wasn't an amazing ball carrier. Of course, Tom would have been decent on the Rex side. I probably would have gone for the Oriana just because the laning matchup's so great.
They have Alistair, actually.
That's true. They had Alistair as well. So Oriana was probably the other one who, of course, famously has always had a strong laning matchup against the Zed, but they go for the most defensive option in Lulu, and suddenly, Bang Unchained is certainly the theme of this game because Vayne doesn't carry. Okay, I guess Marin could, but in reality, this is all about Vayne on SKT.
Yeah, as long as Samsung doesn't let Marin get very fed in the early game like IM did, it's less probable that the Rumble will completely take over this game. Samsung going for a very heavy pick composition, and with an AP Fizz jungle, the burst damage is going to be absolutely crazy.
And that's what I was seeing in solo queue when I was looking at OPGG, looking at what sort of Fizz are we going to expect from Bliss. None of those tank stats, none of that attack damage, all about the ability power. And with the Runeglaive changes making the jungle that much easier to clear because you double proc on the first big minion, it makes Fizz easier at clearing camps. So look, he's still going to be a snowball threat. He's still going to need to get ahead to really be a reliable person to blow someone up, but a little bit better downside now that he can clear the jungle that much quicker.
Yeah, that is true. Well, interesting composition from Samsung. They're running Ignite against Rumble too, so they could very well snowball against him if Marin overextends. Well, interesting matchup today. Let's get into game one. Welcome to Game 1, SK Telecom versus Samsung. The last time these two teams faced off, Samsung managed to get a game win in the best of 3, somewhat surprisingly.
Now they've picked 4 champions who are going to build damage. We're expecting Trinity Force from the Hecarim. Fizz is going to be building AP. Zed and Lucian, you know, they speak for themselves. So 4 damage threats against potentially 1, maybe even 1.5 if they really shut down Marin. So Samsung, I love the aggressive streak they've picked up, and no surprise that Fizz is back with Bliss.
Yeah, no surprise. Well, see what Bliss can do here. He's got to have some effective ganks early. Can they get the Hecarim rolling? Can they get the Zed rolling in this game? Could be a very interesting 1-3-1 split here with Hecarim and Zed in the side lanes. Although Fizz not going to be particularly useful in a siege situation. He has to be able to roam into the side lanes and get the picks. So SKT going to be playing against an unusual composition, to say the least.
Question that you posed on Twitter that might be answered this game. First time we're seeing not quite a Juggernaut, but certainly this defensive Lulu mid. Will this be the debut in Champions of the AP item? You know, usually thought of as a support item, but the Zeke's, I believe, Harbinger, that honestly could actually work really well when you know, you make Vayne your conduit, give her 50% crit chance, and suddenly damage is going to be real.
And also, not to mention that it gives armor, which is going to be a valuable stat for Lulu too, with that Glacial Shroud in the lane against Zed. So I think there's a very real chance we could see that item here, especially when you also consider the 20% AP, which is better for the Kog'Maw than it is for necessarily the Vayne, but with Lulu having that, because you're going to be able to run through one round of cooldowns, one rotation of cooldowns, your abilities within that 6-second time frame, you could really just boost your shield, boost your whimsy, boost your wild growth.
It does loom as a very exciting option just to see if it does accelerate these Protect the AD characters. As you mentioned, most ideal with the Kog'Maw, but still very applicable here, especially with the build path like you mentioned. So we'll wait to see. That's going to be definitely a 2nd or 3rd or 4th item choice. That's going to be later down in the game, as we're left with what's going to be a fairly isolated mid lane between Lulu and Zed, which painful for Zed early, but of course will eventually present quite the kill threat across the map. And there's no one really to split push against him, Monte Cristo, because Rumble's certainly not an ideal champion. He's not the super tanky threat that can really deal with Zed in a 1v1 in the side lane.
Yeah, he's going to have to get ahead, and then he's going to have to complete that Zhonya's before he can really do anything. He's going to be doing that quite early. Look at Marin. Amp Tome into Cloth Armor after a jungle follow. Wolf already down in the lane in this lane swap. But I like the AP Fizz pick here when we consider the fact that everyone else is an AD threat. So they've actually balanced out their composition to a certain degree by having a very heavy AP damage jungle.
Look, it's weird for your comfort to be a champion like Fizz when you're now in the jungle role, but that's precisely what it is for Bliss. Crown, they're going to look to get onto him. Tom won't use his flash, of course, too close to the turret, but Crown feeling the pressure already from Tom.
Yeah, taking a good bit of chunk damage. Interesting to me that EasyHoon has taken Ignite. That EasyHoon has taken Ignite here in this lane and had Wolf with the exhaust instead. So he will have to be extra careful, even though he has that wild growth against the Zed in the laning phase.
Tom's not done with the ganking. Fury and Luna, they're quite extended, and Wolf with the flash.
And there's the headbutt backwards right into Mar, and he's roasting Fury right away. There's the two summoners from Fury, but that is going to be first blood for Tom coming into that lane.
Just surprising that Samsung were willing to play so far down the lane. They already saw the gank in mid. They saw that Tom cheated down the bot. And this is Alistair we're talking about. Flash Pulverize is always a huge threat. And Rumble's early base damage. That's just poor control of the lane by Samsung.
That's a bit of an overextension there for sure. And Bliss was so low. And this is interesting too, because I wonder how much Tom knows about the AP Jungle Fizz right now, because on that full clear, we saw Bliss just surprisingly low after that. So that timing, he probably knew that there was no way for Fizz to respond to that gank.
And look, I want to give Tom all the credit in the world, but we've watched this guy jungle. He was going to be aggressive, whether it was Jungle Fizz or Jungle Rek'Sai or a Gragas coming through from Samsung. So not willing to give him complete credit. If it was Bengi, I would definitely be like, very smart control jungling from Bengi. But Tom, the aggression pays off because he at least understood it was always going to be a jungle mismatch. Fizz was never going to be super sustained in the jungle, especially compared to Rek'Sai, who has all that native sustain from the burrowed abilities.
Yeah, well, Fizz getting a pretty hefty creep advantage after that 31-14 at a very short 5 minutes and 45 seconds into this game to pick up some of the lane farms. So now Wolf going to discover that there is, in fact, a ward there. So his punishment over the Hecarim. And, you know, Bob, but we've talked about that we don't really like Hecarim in the current meta, and this is one of the reasons why. You can easily pick on him in these kind of situations. Sure, he has Ignite, but he just doesn't have any kill pressure right now. If we look at Marn, already has that arm guard, and Kuve just sitting there with a flask. So the dive threat is very, very prevalent from SK Telecom, but a smart ward will stave that off, at least for the time being.
And the Ignite comes as a replacement for the Smite now that Cinderhulk top laners are no longer really a thing. You can't leave lane and be able to pick up the farm from the jungle with the Smite. So you're stuck in the lane, and you've got, that's kind of the issue I see, Monte Cristo, is that you've picked a jungle Fizz with this jungle Hecarim, so you already kind of have a jungle mismatch in terms of pressure, at least reliable pressure in terms of Rek'Sai, and then you have Hecarim, who you're expecting to lose lane anyway, so you're making it very hard for QV to be relevant, especially in the early game.
It's all going to come down to when that Fizz hits the level 6 and has a more reliable presence when it comes to ganking. It's going to be the key moment, is what can Bliss do with the Runeglaive at level 6? Because if the answer is nothing, it's going to be very hard for Samsung to win this game.
Tom showing aggressive in the enemy jungle. Interesting pickup by Bang, picking up the Berserker Greaves first. Now, a lot of AD carries like this on champions that have those auto-attack modifiers, like Twitch with the Expunge, for example, and of course the Silver Bolts on Vayne. And in this particular situation, 1,000 gold spent on attack speed versus just an Avarice Blade, that's a huge mismatch in laning stats between the Vayne and the Lucian.
Yeah, it's interesting too, because we had such an early swap backwards into the duo lanes in this game. They returned to the bottom side, both duos, much earlier than normal. So the recall timings and were kind of weird, which resulted in this double Doran's Avarice Blade build from Fury. It's also very far behind in CS at the moment.
If he gets a quiet laning phase, he can just bank the extra 2 gold for every minion, which is about, what, 10% extra income every minion. He'll feel fine, but it's 2 level advantage as well. Wow, I mean, just the way the swaps worked out. And because of the fact that Vayne was in the solo lane, it's just horrible times for the Lucian. Just has to play super defensively. No pressure in bottom. Pressure on top, though.
And here we go. Kuve going to dive. Marin gets the fish onto it. Marin getting low. Overheat. But will Kuve go down? And Bliss is going to fall. And here comes the Prey Seeker. Just waiting for it to come back up. 3, 2, 1, and nothing. Can't get past the minion wave. Fortuitous timing on that minion wave. Tom cannot clean up the second kill.
There's just no base stats between a Hecarim and a Fizz to go for such a dive. You know, smartly done with the equalizer to separate the exit routes. Meant that someone had to take that extra shot. Someone was going to die, and this time it was Fizz.
Yeah, very well played by Marin. He just had Merc treads. That really doesn't help you when it comes to diving a tower. You're going to eat so much damage in that instance. So first gank, 1 for 1. Not really what they were looking for, particularly since Bliss got the kill and Marin got it on the other side. So this Hecarim still going to be suffering in lane. Goes for a longsword, bit of a cocky build here.
And let's just re-examine the top lane Hecarim. We've talked about it in the past, but it's just the stack of things that work against him. Doesn't have an escape, so obviously always going to be a target for ganks. Doesn't even build for lane, because he's always wanting to rush these home guards. 1475 of your early gold spent on home guards. And then you're expecting a gank without the stats. It's just so many things working against each other, and Tom's coming back.
And Uwe going to run through that Chilling Smite. Does use the devastating charge. Bliss trying to deter any possible tower diving. He will be successful. But now they know where he is, and that takes a lot of the pressure away from EasyHoon, who is building a rather late arm guard here. Just a bunch of pieces of Morello Nomicon and arm guard, but nothing quite completed yet.
I actually do like the build path he's going for, just because if you sacrifice too much of your early power, which is mana regen and cooldown reduction, that's like your power budget for a Lulu who wants to rush 40% CDR as fast as possible to impact team fights. If you put all your early gold into the arm guard, you're in those situations where you can't even control the lane because you don't have mana regen. Bliss is back.
And there's a flash from Marin. He's going to flash the fish, so nothing there. Returning, Tom has a tunnel already waiting. Will he go for this one? No flash used by Tom. Again, just driving Samsung off. Kuve retains his onslaught of shadows.
Every time I see this jungle Fizz gank with this, underpowered in terms of laning stats Hecarim, I see those PDD flashbacks and wait for the 1v2 roast to come down. They're taking a lot of liberties around top, and this is just what Hecarim requires to get going. Is it worth it? Both of us, I think, comfortably safe. Just not right now at the present point, with no longer the Cinderhawk allowing some flexibility in your players, Hecarim.
Well, where do you gank, though, if you're Samsung? You're dealing with a Lulu, who has that wild growth, extremely difficult to kill, even for a Zed, and this situation going on in top where Tom is just there to turn it around every time. Now, they got the ult, they got the flash from Marin, so it was a minor victory. Now they're trying to go all in onto Bang. Wolf going to just back off, body block for any possible follow-up onto Bang.
Lets you know a lot about this particular matchup between the AD carriers, that with an Avarice Blade, okay, a second Doran for laning, but with just an Avarice Blade, comfortably winning a trade against the Vayne. That's not something that Bang would have expected.
Well, I think this is the reason why we're seeing so much more Lucian in the past week or two in Korea. People have realized that if you want to play pretty much anything but Kog'Maw, you're going to have a pretty favorable matchup when we talk about Vayne or Sivir or Corki, a lot of the more common AD carry pickups in this league right now. You could do a lot early.
Yeah, Lucian, very good matchup against Corki, decent matchup against Sivir, but specifically against the Vayne. There's the flash, though.
And Tom is going to get ulted by Crown, but Wild Growth not going to be enough to catch him as the flash comes through. So gets out, absorbs a flash and the death mark, but Wild Growth also used. But that's some more safety there for EasyHoon. Going to be very hard to clean up a Lulu without that flash.
Yeah, I mean, Crown honestly wants to pick up his items, have a farm lane against Lulu, and exit this lane and start the split pushing duty, because the actual laning phase against such a defensive, supremely defensive laner in Lulu, just an exercise in frustration for Crown.
Wolf here trying to get back into lane, will be driven back by the Winter's Bite. Meanwhile, some more under turret farming for this Vayne. Finally, the BF sword coming through from Fury. Bang answering with some sustain in the form of the Cutlass, but the fact that the Vayne is ahead early is just a fantastic time for SK Telecom. They couldn't really have asked for this to go much better. They've held down the Hecarim. The Vayne is ahead, and EasyHoon is solo killing Zed.
Must have just been an overstay from Crown, to be honest. That's something you shouldn't see. That's just like when we saw the Maokai solo killing the Nara a couple of weeks ago. We'll see a replay, but that was probably just some cheeky overstaying from Crown.
Didn't even have to use the Wild Growth, just a Flash Ignite, more than likely. Probably a Glitter Lance, Health Picks, Flash Ignite, that was it. Mara, the subject of another gank here. He will get knocked up and killed, but Bliss gets the kill again. This is not where they need these to go.
You say that, but it's a snowball jungle. I agree that the Hecarim will be a more priority, but can they make something around the Fizz now being a threat if he's the one that's sitting in an unwatered brush and having instant kill pressure on Bang? That's the question that we'll have to wait and see, because once again we see a huge investment of time in top. It's the world's freest dragon for SK Telecom.
Yeah, Bliss just sticking around up in that lane to push the turret. Crown now back. Love to see a replay over what happened in that mid lane, but I imagine it went pretty much like we expected. Marn actually just teleports into the top side. He doesn't have Equalizer. What a questionable decision there by Marin.
That was just dumb.
I don't know what he thought was going to happen right there after his TP. His tower was at full health too. It was probably not going to die on that wave.
And look, there's Q-Face kill, right on Q.
Well, got it in the end.
I don't know what to say about that. You never want to teleport into a lane. The Fizz was low on mana, as you can see, ended the fight on about 50 mana, but the damage is there. This is a snowball Fizz. This is a Fizz that has basically purely been farming. He's taken the Sejuani approach of just farming up the jungle despite so much pressure in top. Fury takes a lot of autos, definitely lost his strength, but they're going to keep fighting.
Looks like they are, and here comes Bang. Glacial Fissure goes through onto Wolf. Bang going to eat a big culling right now as Fury backs away to his turret, but SKT coming out with a subtle advantage in that trade. Wow, that TP into the top side. We've seen Marin play so well this game. Now, he was thinking that, well, they don't have Fish, they don't have Hecarim ult, but they still had Ignite. And that is a major difference in terms of that damage output. So
you know what he didn't expect? You know what he didn't expect, Monte Cristo? This is AP Jungle Fizz. He's maxing Playful Trickster, so he is that much more super. He does have that bigger burst damage. It's very high base numbers on Playful Trickster, and this is an ability that you max second or even third if you're the AD Jungle Fizz. So I think that's just poor knowledge of what is now looming as a possibility, specifically with the Runeglaive changes. AP Jungle Fizz, okay, it's still a Jungle Fizz, but it's probably the superior choice of Jungle Fizz if you're going to commit to that champion.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's a great point. Of course, Marin, too, he plays AD Fizz. And there's Wolf just forcing out the Unbreakable Will. A bit of trading from Bang as he moves forward. But since Marin plays AD Fizz, he may not also fully understand, like you're saying, the burst of an AP Fizz, a little bit outside of his own wheelhouse when it comes to playing that champion.
At this point, Bliss is basically playing Fizz as he used to. It just doesn't have to deal with having to push up a lane. He's showing up and ganking whenever his ult's off cooldown on a very short cooldown, even at level 1, around 60 to 70 seconds, I believe. So he's just having a free time. He's unshackled from all the requirements of just staying in lane and clearing waves.
Important moment here as Tom will back off from the enemy jungle. Just a little bit of a Krug steal. But the fact of the matter is, SK Telecom with a gold lead right now. Been a little bit scrappy, a little bit sloppy early, but even so, Samsung needs to get rolling somehow, some way in this game if they want to ever make this 1-3-1 split push work.
Hecarim picking up that kill might be key to it. Crown is just short the recipe of the Blade of the Ruined King. Again, not enjoying the laning phase in mid. I guess they want to rotate Fury into the mid lane to clear waves against the Lulu, but taking a turret in one of the outer lanes, maybe just bringing Fizz back to top, ganking the Rumble again, and pushing down a turret to allow that lane rotation. Maybe that is what needs to happen in perhaps the next 5 minutes for Samsung.
Well, that's probably why Tom is busy hanging around the top side right now, getting some more wards down. They want to keep Marin safe, and here we go. Fury getting low. Another Cully coming through. Glacial Fissure already used. Bang. It's going to maybe get stunned right here. Got to be a little bit careful. Gets pushed back by the Condemn. Here comes Bliss, but he will be seen by that ward in the Tri-Brush. So a lot of skirmishing in this bottom lane.
Definitely a lot of scrapping. This is a lane that gets better and better for Vayne. Once she gets more attack speed, it's so much cleaner to just tumble past the Q trades that Lucian is really reliably able to hit in the early game. Because you max Silver Bolts first, you don't have Tumble on a super short cooldown, but you get to level 13, have 5 points in both, and suddenly Fury just can't match the damage being put out from Bang, especially without the Infinity Edge.
Backing off right here, and he has no sustain either in this lane. Tom is there, and they want this turret. Looks like they are going to get it in the end. Samsung waves the white flag and retreats from their tower. And one thing we were talking about yesterday that's interesting is the slight Vayne buffs actually in this patch 5.14, where now her tumble cooldown starts when she releases the projectile as opposed to when it hits. And it may sound small, it is not the biggest buff ever, but when we talk about its synergy with Vayne's passive and her ability to chase down champions, it really does make a big difference in catching people who are running away.
Just in kiting and weaving and those skirmishes you talked about, it's just cleaner to be able to both dodge projectiles and get in the extra damage. And you think about the last time Riot made a buff like that, of course it was to Varus. That was a more severe buff when it comes to the Q. That's why we saw the rise of mid-Varus, but it's, in the same order of things for Vayne, and Vayne was already one of the top 80 carry picks in, for example, the LPL. It's still rising in Korea, but we're seeing it more and more from the likes of OQ and now Bang, who are really defaulting back towards the Vayne.
Yeah, I think it's a great change for Vayne, and I'm happy we get to see more of her. Always a fun champion to enjoy playmaking.
You don't enjoy Jungle Fizz, do you, Monstrous?
No, I don't. I think it's bad.
Look, at least it's not the on-hit Jungle Fizz that Tucson brought out with the...
the Devourer Fizz was...
Devourer Wits End Fizz, we weren't a big fan of that one. Now we're finally seeing AP Fizz, okay, it at least does one thing, it bursts well. He has the early lead in both farm and in kills, so potentially might be able to get a very early Zhonya's and team fight with it, but still not your class of champion.
No, I just find it... I find it questionable with all of the other decisions that one can make in the game of League of Legends, particularly with so many strong junglers right now. All right, Samsung may be making a crazy Baron play right now. They do have great wards. They're at least going to bait it. Wolf is the one to check it right now. They see that nobody's on it with the help of the Scrying Orb, but they should be very... Oop, nobody's in there. Where'd they go? Oh, they just backed off. That was... not very exciting at all, Papa Smithy.
The OGN Observer made it more exciting than it perhaps actually was. You said the word questionable a lot of times in today's broadcast. Marin's teleport, the Fizz jungle, some of the play around the lanes. This is what happens when there's nothing on the line, but at least they're experimenting. At least we're learning things. AP Jungle Fizz doesn't seem to be awful, at least.
No, I think it's certainly an improvement over other jungle Fizzes that we've seen. I know that doesn't say a whole lot. I've seen Spirit playing Jungle Fizz a lot over in the LPL right now. I haven't really been impressed by it.
How's his team doing? They're doing pretty well, yeah? Right up the top?
WE, right at the top of the standings, first going into playoffs. Excellent squad.
Maybe in golf terms they'd be doing quite well, because I believe they're 9 under first place.
Getting the... It's about how many birdies you get in the standings, right? Spenu is killing it right now.
No, I was sorry, actually. It'll be 11 under, because, of course, there's 12 teams in the LPL. Oh, dear. World Elite. Once proud. No, not so proud.
Well, this mid-turret getting very low from Easy Hoon's repetitive poking and pushing.
They get the rotation I was talking about, Lucian in the middle to clear waves, but it's actually at the cost of their outer tower. It's all three of them down.
Uh-oh. Marin on the run right now. There's the fish. Nice hit. Marin will die in a 1v1 to Samsung's jungler.
When you have that much AP on Fizz, it's easy to do in Monte Cristo. They take that out of turret. Marin is an afterthought. Luna might be caught. In fact, yeah, definitely caught.
He is unbreakable. Will not save him. Wolf engages with the flash, and now SK Telecom. They're just going to go for this Baron. 20 seconds until Marin, but he has the TP, and no one is anywhere close to this. They know Bliss was just the bottom side, so this should be a very easy Baron to take.
Waiting for the teleport from Hecarim. It's quite far away. Baron falls down to 3,000.
Yep, they're going to get it for sure. The question is, what will the fight afterwards look like? There's the Baron, and it will be taken by top. They've already engaged Easy Hoon with the Zhonya's Hourglass Fury, firing the culling into the pit. Bliss right now gets his own Zhonya's, just finished it on that last recall, and there's Easy Hoon trying to get away. He will not be popped. Tom manages to save him with a nice unburl. Marin is now there. Marin has already used the equalizer. Now that is not going to be available for him. He is now running back underneath his mid lane turret. Samsung pursuing. I don't know if Samsung should really think about diving this. Fish, and there we go. There's the dive. Dash forward from Crown and Fury, but they actually get the kill. Nicely played by Samsung. Good dive in the end.
2 kills and a mid turret traded for Baron certainly isn't the advantage of SKT. Samsung, remember, what, 3 minutes ago had their own pink wards over to Baron. We're thinking about the cheese you mentioned. SKT took control. Bliss, he's basically been best friends with the robot unicorn horse, but unfortunately all that's causing is these mismatches where there's so much pressure on the diametrically opposite side, and that's why the Baron was started by SKT.
Yeah, and it was taken, but it was just so close to having Marin there prior to the Baron fight. It was a very close call in the end. Equalizer does come down into the pit. Tom and EasyHoon getting away. EasyHoon has the pop go off, but Crown delayed just long enough, and he will miss the shuriken. EasyHoon had his shield anyway, so not going to make the biggest difference. This is a nice dive, though, actually. Wolf just gets the minion wave with the headbutt. And now let's take a look at this. It didn't look like Marin was under that much threat with Wolf right there, but just very high burst damage. Good coordination between Bliss, Crown, and Fury for the dive damage.
And just look at the gold difference, because as we were watching that replay, Cuvée took down top. Now turrets are all even. Gold is certainly fairly close to even, especially considering 1,500 gold came in from the Baron. Wolf looking for the dive.
Now they want to get onto Bang. There is the wild growth, and Crown is just destroyed. They have to chase him all the way back as he pops his flashback to his ghost.
There's no one defending for Samsung. They're pushing themselves. I don't really like the chances of being able to out-push SKT. And what will this eventual trade look like? Samsung are backing off, but they're going to look at who's at minimum the inhibitor turret, and almost certainly the inhibitor.
Yes, inhibitor will go down right here, especially since Tom is there delaying some crucial recalls. 3 people back. It's not going to be enough to stop the 3-man squad of SKT from getting the inhibitor. Glacial Fissure will knock up Bang. Bang now trying to kite this one out. Bliss right there in the backline does use his Zonias to live momentarily, but guess what? Bang is still there. Bang is still going to kill you because of the Lulu shield. Meanwhile, Tom and Cuvée have managed to continue their epic conflict all the way across the map, and Marin is there already pushing up the mid lane so that they can get even more out of this Baron buff. 40 seconds now until Dragon.
Tom was deceptively the hero, stopping Cuvée's recall to make it only a 3v3 at the inhibitor rather than the 4v3 it would have been if Hecarim could have finished the recall. Already lost their inhibitor in a bad trade. Gonna probably be this inner turret, only a couple hits away. Yes, goes down as well. Samsung, they're not super far behind, but they've certainly taken the worst end of the trade from SKT.
Well, with that, it does look like Samsung has more than likely run out of gas with their split push / pick composition. SK Telecom bringing the fight to them, forcing the engagement around the Baron. They get the Baron anyway and are able to capitalize off it, even though they lost a couple members on their way out. Definitely was the right call. It was so close to Samsung getting there too. Had it been delayed by a couple more seconds and they would have gotten away with it scot-free, basically.
Bang takes the red buff and gets away. It looks like Samsung are putting multiple members to try and get this pick. But you see the issue, the big issue when Samsung were the team to actually lose their turrets first is that when you have those enemy turrets down, there's so many more safe places to move. Suddenly it's so much harder to force choke points where you can put a pink ward down and get a pick with the likes of Fizz. When the map's more open because you've taken the outer turrets, less risky places to walk, and suddenly the reliability of getting the picks is completely opposite to if Samsung had been the team to pick up the first 3 outer turrets of this game.
Yeah, it's that map pressure definitely does change quite a bit. Fish looks like it missed onto Lulu in the top side. Yes, it did. And EasyHoon doesn't even care about the Jungle Fizz right now. He is on a mission to kill this horse. He's going to be just as fast as that Hecarim, but he will back off. It's a little bit more dicey to follow it up. Cuvée escapes, at least for the moment, but they're still furiously pushing down that top side wave. They want that next inhibitor in the top lane. Take out a tier 2 first before they can do that.
There's awkward mismatches in the 1-3-1 across the map to the point where Vayne will comfortably win a 1v1 against Zed now that she's finished the QSS. Hecarim's struggling to beat even the Lulu in split push terms. Samsung picked for the 1-3-1, but somehow SKT actually had the superior 1-3-1.
Yeah. Well, that is what getting ahead can do, and having those proper lane assignments just very difficult to kill the Lulu right now. And they are going to siege up. SK Telecom doesn't have the best composition for sieging, so have to be careful about Lucian and Zed damage to their damage champions in the front line. But look at that chunk taking out of Kuve. He only has a Glacial Shroud right now, so not going to be blocking too much of that Vayne's damage.
EasyHoon just has so much ability, about 529 already. You can see the Whimsies applying the 80% speed buff. The AP damage coming through is not mitigated because, of course, these are assassins, not tanks on the Samsung Galaxy side. When we see jungle Nidalee, you always raise the question, where's the Aegis coming from? And unless Luna has one, no one on Samsung's going to get one.
Yeah, that's a really good point. So, Rumble Lulu damage not being mitigated. Vish will fly wide to the left.
And just saw from Luna, no chance of an Aegis, just a Ruby Crystal in the infantry on top of just the core of the mobility boots and the side stones. So Marin, it's not the death cap, but with no resist on the enemy side, feeling pretty good himself. Game's been played around the Rumble for once. Didn't require the carry performance from Marin's Rumble this time.
Here we go. More damage onto the turret. Not quite enough to crack it at this stage. They're going to recall Baron up in 10. Turning their sights to that objective. They really do need Baron to kill these towers in the end because of their relatively poor siege. I'd like to see a Lulu get a Lich Bane right now. I think that would actually be a good pickup for her, or the Harbinger. Harbinger would be great.
The Harbinger would be super cool because we're just, we're speculating after watching the amazing Juggernaut performance between KT and Ku not a couple of weeks ago. Suddenly you add in something different, like the potential to have 50% extra crit, 10, 20 minutes earlier than you would have naturally been able to itemize. We're talking double Phantom Dancer, Infinity Edge amounts of crit required to kind of emulate that. There's some exciting team fights that are going to happen in subsequent games in Champions.
But it's even more efficient against this composition. You have 3 AD threats in Hecarim, Zed, and Lucian. So that armor has never been more valuable than it is right now.
And with Zhonya's, you drop the fish, you drop the percentage damage amp. Okay, it's not magic resist, but it's still pretty damn effective against the Fizz already. So, look, if you're going to go kind of a defensive choice, if you don't have the 40% CDR and the extra CDR from the Glacial Shroud, item path will help. Maybe we'll see it.
Maybe we will. I hope we will. Well, it looks like that pink ward can't actually see the green ward in the brush right there, so they have to sweep it out. And now Bang with a big shield on him will be pursuing this Zed, who is trying to flee, but you're probably not going to escape that Bane. Meanwhile, Wild Growth actually used on a Tom right now. That means it's not available for Bang. Bang just going to have to kite this one out. He will do that successfully, as Hecarim is the first to fall in this team fight. Now we see the Whimsy pursuit, and with that passive, Bane is so quick with the Whimsy, but they will not push it any further. They're just going to go and do the Baron.
Honestly, things couldn't have gone much better for Samsung. They separated threats. Bang was canceling auto attacks throughout the fight just because people were weaving in and out, but still, Samsung couldn't find the pick they so desperately need on either EasyHoon or Bang. And there's no one around to pressure this Baron. First Baron really opened up the game for SKT. Second one probably going to put the death knell for Samsung.
Probably just one more push coming in, as you note, and that should be about it for this one. Taking a look at that fight again.
Just watch Bang, because of course Bang is the MVP, tries to initiate, does have Lulu in her pocket, so can be aggressive, but there's just no threats because everyone's so slippery on the side of Samsung, but they'll eventually get the pick, SKT, and get the objective anyway.
Yeah, there's the equalizer going down on 2 members, and this was just great team fighting. First off, we see Bang not overcommit to the Zed kill, just go back after you chunk him out because he's no longer a threat. Rejoin your team and just kite it out, get their front line, because without that front line, Zed cannot do anything.
You can just definitely see the Vayne mechanics from Bang. It's not quite the Vayne we saw the last series when we saw Bang pull out this champion. Again, he's not the sort of person who makes those OQ moments like OQ. Look, OQ would probably have played that engage very differently, but might have died, whereas Bang shows that little bit of extra restraint to never overchase, despite all the chasing in the kit and that Lulu provides in this comp.
Yeah, really much more trusting, I think, in his front line than OQ is over on Najin, realizing that his teammates will help him out in that regard, and he doesn't have to get all of those up-front kills to make it work. So, yes, very interesting, as you say, to see the difference in play styles, but Bang right now, he does have those top 2 spots in the Korean ladder. He's actually the first Korean player ever to hit over 1,400 league points in Challenger.
He's definitely an inform. You just notice the little differences between him and other top AD carries, which, again, we're not passing judgment on him. He didn't need to go any more aggressive. He made the smart choice, and they got the objective out of it. So a very effective player for this team, and the carry they need when Faker just enjoys his holiday on the sidelines.
Faker on holiday.
You know his holiday's probably solo queuing, right, Monte Cristo?
That's, yeah, well, you don't get to be as good as him without some pretty insane dedication to the game.
Wonder how he goofs off in solo. I mean, I have some idea he likes to play support for Captain Jack.
I was gonna say,
but in the mid lane,
but
in the mid lane, you know, maybe he's like, okay, I'm not gonna play Victor. Speaking of playing Crown, he's dead.
Wow, and that was a whole lot of damage coming in from Bang, and there's a double kill. Nearly unassisted by his team, just that Bang is so far ahead.
It's just ridiculous. He was ahead in CS in the laning matchup. The Avarice Blade and Berserker Creep's Spy certainly helped Bliss. That's not going to hit, mate. And Bang looks hella threatening in the front.
Yeah, he does. And with that Vayne passive combined with the Whimsy, it's just impossible to get away from Bang. Once he gets onto you, you are going to eat those auto attacks. You pretty much just have to turn on him because you might as well deal some damage. There's no escaping.
See the benefits that not picking the Orianna meant that Lulu's so much easier to get around, so much more defensive. Cubate's knocked up, Bang, he's pre-autoing, but might not be any more kills to pad the stats.
Nope, just wants the turret right now. EasyHoon flashing towards that fountain. There's the equalizer, keeping everyone locked up in there. Crown going for a last desperation kill, but he is going to end the game airborne as the Nexus explodes. A win for SK Telecom, very convincing.
And look, Bliss comes into the lineup, he plays Fizz. That's what he would have done if he was in the mid lane, let's be real. But he was in the jungle this time. He played fine, he got a lot of AP. It's just the strategic choices you have to make when you put a carry in the jungle is reminiscent of when Spirit was playing jungle Riven and trying to split push. That's just not what the role's about. That's why someone like Benny succeeds so well with the vision game. You put the carry pants on, sometimes it'll work, but against a top team, just so hard.
Well, it's just so unreliable too. We see Chaser, when he makes plays for Jenner, he does it and he can win games, but it requires very specific chances.